Hey everybody, this is Intro, and in this tutorial we're going over C++ input. So to create an input, we have to have something to store that input in, being that this is a program, right? And we have our main function, and inside this function we have to have some way for the user to store information. Since there is no other way to store information written in here, what we have to do is create operators that will store that information for us, otherwise known as variables. So variables can be used in C++ to give objects names, to declare what an object's going to do, a bunch of things. But for this, we're just going to make a variable that's going to be used as some sort of memory. So what we need to do that is there are many types of different variables that can be used. Sorry about that. That can be used within C++. So there's float variables, there's integer variables, there's string variables, but what we need to do for this is just create a simple variable for string. So to create a string variable, what we're going to do is type in string, which obviously you can see the syntax of it automatically changed, just to note that this is a variable. After we type in string, we're going to want to give our string variable a name. So your name can be anything. I'm just going to say first string, and then after this we want to end our command, denoting that there is no value for first string. Now what we could have done is put or deleted the semicolon and put equal to, and then put the parentheses and our semicolon again to end the line, and then just enter some value inside of here to denote as the value of first string. So when you give this a value, say we say example 1. Now the example 1 string is what is stored at the memory address of first string, if that makes any sense. So when I go to output something now, I can see out, put my output operators, and just type in first string, and we'll go ahead and end that line. Now what this will do is it's just going to output the value of what first string is. And since I set the value of first string to example 1, it's just going to simply output example 1. So we'll go ahead and test that. And here we go. So you got example 1 right here that was stored in this first string variable and then called by me to the screen using its name that we gave it. So that's how you call a string variable, and next we're going to be going over how to store a string variable. So we're going to want to delete all of this, the value that we gave first string, and we're just going to put the semicolon as I said before. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, instead of, so when I have a variable of string that I want somebody to input, there has to be some way of telling that user, okay, I have a string variable, will you please enter something that I can store in it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to output store a variable, or actually store a string variable to the user. So after the user sees store a string variable pop up, they're going to say, okay, I'll write in a string variable for you. So what this operator does is it actually allows us to store some value that the user inputs into a variable. So this is the input operator, so that means that a user can now input information, and this uses the two greater than signs. If you've noticed, this output operator right here is sort of going out to the user, and then the input operator is coming in back into the computer. That's another way to remember that. So what we're going to store that variable in is going to go here. Or what we're going to store, what the user is entering in, is going to go into our input operator. So I want that user to store their information in the first string variable which I created at first. So to do that, we just enter first string and end that command. So after this, the user is going to enter a input, and it's going to be stored here, and I'll show you right now. We're going to click build and run. Okay, so it says store a string variable. Notice that the string variable that I created didn't pop up on the screen because it wasn't outputted. It was just a part of the program that we're using to store something to its memory. So what we're going to do is the user is going to then see, okay, store string variable and input something. So this is my string variable. And then they just click enter. And that's the end of that program. As you can see, what this program did was it took that input and it stored it into first string. You didn't see that, but when the user inputted, this is my string variable, it was stored into here, and we can show you that by exiting this command prompt, going back over here, and actually just putting the cout or the output operator again, and then outputting first string. Now, as you can see in our program, first string was not given any value. It was I simply asked the user to enter some value in the form of a string, and they entered that value, and now I'm just going to output that value back out to them. So before we output this to the screen, we're just going to say this is the value that you entered, or you've entered, and then just put a colon, and then I can just use my output operator and put first string. And in that line, you'll see why I gave this the colon and some space here in a second. So we're going to go ahead and run this program. And here we go again, store string variable, C++ programming. Click enter, and this is what we got. This is the value that you've entered, C++. And the reason why it did not store the second word is because we didn't take. So when you have a user input some value, the string has to be stored in one word. So like when I called this first string, what it took from that C input was the first value that I grabbed from it. And we'll go over later why it does that and how to get around that, but for this video it's just something that we don't really need to go over. So I can just go back, rerun it, and I'll just put like C++ programming all in one word just to show you guys. So C++ programming, enter, and this is the value that you've entered. And since it's all in one word, we got the exact same value that was entered. So that's basically how you input or have a user input some values to the screen. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Please subscribe.